surprisingly, there's not a whole lot going on right now officially with Modern Warfare. We're just a week out and there's not all that much being said officially or even in the leak side of things. We're undoubtedly coming up on that period where people will start to get their hands on copies, as stores now apparently have gotten their shipments already. So the leaks are absolutely imminent. We have a couple of things that we're still owed from Infinity Ward officially as well, but we're kind of just like waiting and looking at the bottom of the dam and the cracks that are in there, and when it bursts, well, we're gonna be absolutely inundated with stuff to talk about. But right now, it is a little dry. There's not much in terms of current events to cover, so I wanted to take today to talk a little bit about camos. More specifically, the idea of realistic camos, what we've already seen, surprisingly we've actually seen a couple, and what may be our gold, diamond, and dark matter grind this year that we've seen in years recently. This is, by all accounts, a more conversational and casual piece that we'll be talking about today, and isn't anything that's going to be too mind-blowing in terms of breaking information, but instead, I wanted to fill you in on some of the things that we likely haven't talked about here on the channel, or maybe not even have talked about much as a community. It's going to be a little more laid back. Hopefully that's cool with you guys. Of course, if you guys are new to the channel and you guys want to check out more Modern Warfare content, we're ramping up to launch here, and I'm so excited to jump into the new game. But if you're new, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare. That said, as for camos, we actually already saw some, believe it or not. Some officially, while we'll talk about some air quote leaks or some other bugged out images in game that showcase some camos. We'll talk about those in a second, but in terms of actual officially released screenshots, we haven't had a full-blown just showcase of weapon camos, but we could see them off in the corner of an interview that Joel Emsley did with The Hollywood Reporter. For this interview, he ended up talking a little bit about just the back end of the game, some of the things that went into actually creating it. We got to see some of the cool stuff if you guys are interested in behind the scenes things, like his sketchbook and some of the early designs of items, but we ended up seeing, for a very small flash of a frame, some camos on the M13 as well as the MP5. Now, the M13 is that weapon that was showcased for just a brief second, but we ended up getting to see that it looked kind of like a fall camo comparable to fall from Modern Warfare 2. As for what we saw on the MP5, that looked more like an urban woodland type of camo that, again, fits that more so modern but not too out there camo that we have seen previously. Again, comparable probably to Modern Warfare 2's camos most notably, and those were the official shots that we ended up seeing, and it was a very, again, brief flash that you'd have to catch. You could see it off in the distance in the background of the monitor that was in the interview, but you had to really check it out. But whenever we got close-up images of it, they were only there for a brief bit of time. But by all accounts, this seems like they're sticking true to the guns of more realism, more realistic camos, and whether or not that's something you really enjoy, we'll talk about that in a little bit later, my thoughts, but it seems like that's going to be the case. And with all, of course, accounts pointing towards other gameplay features being more so rooted in realism, it makes sense. And that's something that since those announcements, it's been a debate on if players should want them to stick to that or not. But again, with what we saw officially, it looks like it's going to be. So why are we just bringing this up now? It's not anything that is too brand new or too out there, but instead because I wanted to talk to you guys about some things that, while cruising Reddit, saw a couple of times over the past couple of weeks. One big one being the fact that we saw a pink tiger camo in the beta build of Modern Warfare. Now, as you guys know, there were no camos accessible in terms of via challenges or unlocks, so it was just the base weapon play, and that's how it always is with betas. You're never gonna find camos in that because that's secondary things. The beta is used to showcase gameplay to make sure it works properly, it functions as it should, and if there's any bugs or feedback that can be taken into account, it will be. Camos and customization stuff, that's not really a big focal point for the core development of the game. But one Reddit user named Zurich ended up posting a thread asking if this was something that he ran into a developer, if he ran into a modder, or if it was something illegitimate that he shouldn't have been able to find within the game. But he ends up sharing this clip that you'll see on screen right now, in which he ends up killing someone with what looks like a pink tiger camo, and when he picks it up, sure enough, that's exactly what it looks like. So this seems to be a camo in the game, bugged out and brought into the beta, whereas it should not be. Those things are of course in the game files, but again aren't accessible via in-game use. But not only was it the fact that it was a brand new camo, it was the FAL, which wasn't available in any build of the game that we had seen up until this point. So of course we knew it was going to be coming because of data mined files, but we hadn't seen it in-game in any action outside of some officially released footage or anything like that. But the big part that everybody had some tough times grasping with was this pink tiger camo. by all accounts, naturally, it seems a little bit more out there compared to, say, a woodland camo or some sort of fall camo that we'd seen previously in other modern military shooters. So where does this stand? Is this still considered realistic? Is it a little bit more out there? Truthfully, I think this is a more realistic thing because, I mean, this is only a matter of paint jobs. It's not anything like Black Ops 4 where you have unicorns on your weapons or you have something like a dragon breathing fire and changing colors every single time you get a new kill. But it is something that may be a little bit out there for some people. Personally, I don't care. We'll talk about this in a second here, my thoughts on this entire situation, but it is something that now teeters that line a little bit. What also is interesting though is that also from game files and from the PC version of the game, or even just the console versions if you plug in a mouse and keyboard, you're able to see different variations of various attachments. There is weapon attachment variants here with this, and that's something that hopefully doesn't get taken to the next level and absolutely become something like Black Ops 3 where it muddies up a loot pool and is something of almost zero value being introduced in droves. But we end up seeing what actually looked like some teasers of the gold camo, which is again something that we kind of knew was going to be happening. It was leaked that at first it wasn't, but then Infinity Ward added in abilities to get gold and diamond and some dark matter level of camo, but we don't know what that one is yet. But it showcases a gold tip here at this, and again, that could be something that easily plays into just the blueprints, but it makes you wonder, given the fact that right around the time that beta is when that leak apparently indicated that there was going to be changes made so that you could see a gold and diamond camo. But there also were things like a little bit of a cheeky pink camo, which on the AK-47, you could see that there was a sight variant that showcased a sort of white and pink variation here with that color and detail. Again, how much does this push the line of going into that blurred gray area of what's realistic versus what's not? Now, talking about my own personal thoughts here again, I don't really care about this kind of stuff. I'm a huge camo guy. I love either realistic or non-realistic camos, a little more extravagant stuff. Extravagant stuff, I will say, though, does allow the developers to have a little bit more creative freedom. That to me is a great thing in a sense that it does still stick with that relative vibe. I think that when we think about air quote realistic systems of camos, World War II had some pretty good ones. It got a little bit out there at some points, but they weren't anything that really pushed it too far, I don't think. Modern Warfare Master was the same exact way. There were hundreds of camos in that game, and I don't think that there were too many that were over the top or anything that was just like, no, I don't like that, let's pretend like that never happened. There were tons that played that realistic but also creative freedom line, which is something that later down the line, when things probably inevitably open up in terms of design intent with content in Modern Warfare, I would like to see. I'd like to see some creative freedom, some experimentation, but again, still not necessarily breaking immersion. So that's something that'll be there. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but right now it does seem like it's going for a more realistic approach, but may not necessarily be entirely only rooted in realism, may not be only in those desert camos, those digital urban camos. We might see something that pushes a little bit further, which to me, again, isn't all that bad. Now, the next question that I have in terms of just general conversation is how will a lot of these work? We're hearing a lot of conflicting reports right now. We're hearing that there's going to be supply drops. We hear there's not going to be supply drops. We do know, of course, that if there is a gold, diamond, and dark matter level of camo, that's likely going to be something that we need camo challenges for each specific weapon that they are associated with. So how would that work? Would it be headshots again? And how would it work in terms of, well, the cross progression? There's mode cross progression where you can share things from MP to Spec Ops and what may also be campaign. We haven't heard that talked about as much as Spec Ops to MP, but would that be something where the headshot total is increased because you could theoretically just go into Spec Ops and farm headshots? Maybe it's something that, like, instead of 100 headshots, you need 1,000, where it's a 10 times multiplier where you can do it definitely in multiplayer, but it would take quite some time because they're trying to incorporate multiple modes into that. I'm really curious to see how this is all going to work out. I almost think that headshots may be abandoned for some camos, and if there is no supply drops, I can almost guarantee that there will be, because you may have the headshots and other masteries for that regular progression, but if there are no supply drops, which I don't believe that they're completely gone, but let's just play the hypothetical. If it is in fact gone, there's going to be a lot of stuff being introduced in ways that we don't know of, in ways that would be, if verbatim via gameplay mechanics, well, we might have some other challenges, maybe like overall kill totals for unlocking camos. Maybe there's a headshot progression to end up getting those mastery camos, but also there's just a sort of veteran style one where if you get 10,000 camos, you unlock a air quote mastery camo for that as well. I think that'd be cool, but of course we'll have to wait and see. But right now, I think that's where we're going to conclude the discussion. I think that's where we're going to wrap it up. Just wanted to, again, have a little bit of a casual conversation, talk about some of these things that have popped up, but we haven't really talked about here on the channel, give you my thoughts, give you guys the information surrounding them, and so therefore, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is there anything in particular that you guys really are looking forward to here out of Camos? Is there anything that you really are die hard, it has to be realistic, or die hard, no, it's okay, let them do whatever they want? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, but hopefully enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below, and of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare. Of course, we are getting so close to the launch. Make sure you guys are subscribed if you're interested in any of that. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get catch up out of YouTube. Frankly, live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. For all this out of the way, thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.